Hello and welcome to Strange Stories. It's great to have you here. We are all about sharing stories of near-death experiences from around the world in the hopes of bringing some light and inspiration to your day. Our daily videos offer a glimpse into what lies beyond this life, and we believe that they can help us all appreciate the gift of life a little bit more. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue to grow. And to our returning viewers, welcome back. We're thrilled to have you with us again. So go ahead, grab a cozy blanket, get comfy, and join us for today's incredible near-death experience story.
In December of 2010, I was diagnosed with complex autoimmunity gone awry after doctors unknowingly gave me a medication that had an adverse effect on my liver. We already knew my lungs and kidneys were failing at the time. By omitting the liver, the medication, which would have been completely harmless otherwise, ended up compromising the entire system. According to my medical records, I fell, suffered a traumatic brain injury, and the combination of systematic organ failure and the hit to the head resulted in automatic coma. I was flown by helicopter to Johns Hopkins Hospital, where I had my near-death experience. So, in ICU, my consciousness begins to leave the body. And this is where I start to notice what felt like a lucid dream at first. Now, according to my understanding and intuition, I wasn't completely separated from the human form of the body at this point. As a result, there was some identification and knowledge of the human, as well as a desire to care for the body and return to the soma. At the same time, there was a magnetic gravitational pull to the opposite side, and it was ultimately this that kept me grounded. And I shifted quickly from this very human scene into what appeared to be the atmosphere, then into the sky, stars, or cosmos. That's how I perceived the other side. It was light, vibration, felt and sensed. It was the most abundant, beautiful love I'd ever known. When I first arrived, I was drawn to these three lights, a trifecta of beauty. They had a ruby tone, an amethyst gem tone, and what I would call an emerald tone to me. And these lights reminded me of home. It was as if I were taking part in a cosmic family reunion. The light recognized me, and I recognized it. For the first time, I felt truly seen and validated. On the other hand, there were aspects of my consciousness that remained with me and were embodied. They were exactly the same there as they are now. That could be because I was comatose but not completely dead. I'm not sure. What I do know is that I was me, but not an embodied version of myself. And I was so enchanted by those lights that I didn't notice the magnitude of abundance and the vibrations dancing all around me at first. At this point, I realize that I have no form, that I am formless, and that I may become one with the lights, and that some of them may enter me and share their warmth and understanding. You must now imagine that no words are being spoken. Everything is communicated through vibration. Everything is communicated at the highest vibration. There's no time there. So it was this beautiful ebb and flow of energies for me. Nonetheless, in retrospect, I quantify it by time because it lasted 3.5 days. When I think about it, it feels like an eternity. Even now, it feels as if that period of time, now over there, is 3 days asleep. These angels are holding me. At least, that's how I received them at first. And I'm overjoyed to be with them. As a result, they imprisoned me. And as they were doing so, messages began to arrive. Messages about the body and what had occurred. And now that I understand how hard shoppers work from my own experiences, the time makes more sense. It was all experiences that my consciousness was receiving. It was also instantaneous. Things were literally moving at the speed of light. You think or feel something and then it appears. They responded. You were welcomed. You were loved, and you were recognized. And I expressed my care and concern for the human, the body, the family, and all of these things at some point in this light language we were communicating with through vibration and frequency. And it was made clear to me that I had an option of staying or leaving from the moment I arrived. And I'm welcome to stay in any way, shape, or form for as long as I want. There was no such thing as right or wrong. Everything was in order. So they supported me as we moved through space, almost as if we were each stars or universes in our own right, because the colors were constantly shifting. As a result, these colors supported me as we moved and shifted and approached the center of space. And when you arrived, you were almost brought to your formless knees in awe of this energy, this being, this illumination, And in that space, I now recognize it as the creator, despite the fact that it never introduced itself as anything. It was always love, plenty of love. So I'm in this space, and I'm finally taken aback by the stunning ultraviolet white light, and it's enormous in comparison to the stars, angelic, and other celestial beings who were present. Nothing in this space seemed to have form to me. Everything was made of light, vibration, and sound. As a result, this magnificent colossal orb of creator light is calling, and I'm so connected. There was that instantaneous return to what I had just said, that instantaneous realization that it was not separate from me. Looking around, I began to intuitively understand that we were all part of this divine light, and the angelic, celestials, and stars, all the various forms of light and light consciousnesses, as I like to call them, that were communicating with me were all part of this creator's light. So in some ways, we're all fractals of this light, fractals of God, fractals of source or spirit, or whatever vernacular you use to quantify and qualify the ineffable. As I receive this abundant love, a part of my consciousness desires to completely merge with said light, with the creator. However, another part does not. And that piqued my interest because, as much as I wanted to move forward and reunite with the creator, I felt called back in a bit of an impediment. As a result, it was more than curiosity. And I felt really pulled and unsure whether I should stay or go. And at that point, the angelic and other celestial beings entered, and they reiterated that there's no right or wrong. You can stay, go, or stay in the in-between for a while. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome here. It's fine. It's fine. As a result, I was able to simply be in this space and recognize that I didn't have to do anything. So I experimented with that for a while, possibly to figure out what I wanted to do, to see if I wanted to stay. It's just what I did, and it could have been a result of being in the in-between. Then, as I was doing so, I began to notice that the pull to the body became stronger, and the angelic began to send out more messages. And I started asking more questions, to the point of wondering what it would be like if I go back. There's no sugarcoating. The angelic and my experience were very firm. They warned me that if I returned, I would have to endure even more pain. I was about to go through more ordeals. I was going to suffer from physical ailments once more. But what they were really saying was that I was going back to fulfill a soul contract that I'd come here to fulfill, and that there were still karmic aspects to it, which would be unpleasant for me. And imagine if my consciousness is still somewhat attached to the human because I'm in a comatose state. Does a complex trauma survivor want to return to a body that has already been subjected to severe decades of trauma as well as medical trauma and then go through more? Of course, that little part of him that was still human did not want to do that. Absolutely not. And yet, the soul had been held and healed in so much light that it had been truly recalibrated and reoriented through the one whom I refer to as the Creator. And it was only through the Creator's light that I realized my soul's evolution, the work for which my soul knew it was equipped and had chosen to come here to do, was what I was truly aligned with. Yes, going back would be difficult, but I would eventually overcome it. And how exciting for the soul to know that it is returning to be a part of a collective healing experience. As a result, I conclude that it wishes to return. Then I ask them quite clearly, how do I get back to the human? How do I return to my body? And their response was to look for lights that were unlike any others. My consciousness begins hyper-focusing on one light, assuming I'll see a single large light like the Creator, and then I'm back in my body. Nonetheless, I see 3 lights. One is this horrifying, yellow, piercing, earthly, artificial light. The other 2 are very soft with jeweled tones. This time, we have a very bright green as well as an indigo. Indigo is extremely potent. Of course, the obnoxious, loud light drew my attention first, but the love pool, the vibration that I'd just been immersed in this space, is also coming from the jewel-toned light. They have a very different energetic signature than the celestials, angelic stars, and of course the Creator. But what's interesting, and what I always notice when I get back into that state, is that they didn't hold me as tightly as the other lights did. I had a strong desire to hold them. I wouldn't understand this attraction for another 3 years, but those were the auric signatures, the energy signatures of my children as they are now, unbeknownst to me at the time. That's significant to me because my eldest was born 3 years into my reintegration journey, and my youngest was born 7 years later. So they filled that 10-year gap. I only had 3 years to myself, because so many people who have these experiences go through many difficult periods afterwards, and I was the textbook in that way. The totality ends up really being an anchor point to keep me on the earth plane. So my sons appearing to me in space and holding me there was a poetic metaphor for how their energy would later serve me. I ended up returning and giving my children 2 names, one for heaven and one for earth, because they have truly been my heaven on earth. They've really taught me how to bring the lessons of the cosmos into the body and have brought me into balance here. So their light anchors me into wanting to return, and I'm grateful I did. And I held on to them in that space for a little while just to savor. So I pivot and ask Spirit why this isn't taking me back to the body. But I really love this energy, and they say, you'll know that energy again. You'll remember everything. You'll recognize this location again. You'll recognize us. We're not. None of this is going anywhere if you choose to leave. You simply return to your embodied form. So I went towards this artificial light, and the way it works over there is that the moment you make a conscious decision, you're catapulted into it. There's no intermediate state. It's simply instantaneous. Everything. And so I look at this bright, horrific light, and the next thing I know, I'm back in my body, like catapulted into the body. A very uncomfortable, traumatized body. And there's this horrific bright yellow artificial flashlight, a ginormous one, and they were attempting to check my vital signs. Because again, I'd been declared brain dead, and I'd been comatose at that point 3.5 days. So they're just looking for movement or rapid eye movement, anything like that. And sure enough, I came in right then. And it was strange to go from this beautiful, etheric, loving space to suddenly have artificial light cast into your eyes. But that was my callback to the body, and it marked the start, the very start of my journey with my NDE after effects. So as I returned to my body, and in this new form of consciousness was placed in the very same body that I'd left, I suddenly realized that the person I'd been before, the Brooke who'd gone into a coma, the Brooke who'd been ill with autoimmunity, was gone, and there was a new human, a new way of being and relating to and communicating with this world. As a result, I experienced a miraculous, spontaneous healing and remission from autoimmune disease. I was released from the hospital in less than a month, so I had this miraculous, beautiful healing from the angelic. And yet, when I returned to the human world and was learning to use my gifts without any assistance, I felt more connected, more in alignment, and more in service to the light than ever before because of that constant commitment, that constant call to return to center and to return to service and to use the darkness, the shadow, and the pain to help others.